So we have been, I want to kind of continue on a little bit with our sacred signs moment and talk a little bit more about why I'm doing this. Some of it is just because it's good information for us to have. Some of it is that many of us did not grow up in the Lutheran Church or did not grow up in churches that had more liturgical worship, and a lot of this is new to some of us. And so this is a great opportunity for us to learn all these different signs and symbols and rituals and what they mean. So there is just sort of an intellectual thing. But if you haven't noticed about me, I kind of like all this stuff. I like the changing of the colors. I like what the altar guild does. Those of you that were here at my installation, the one commandment that the bishop gave to me was not to be too hard on the altar guild. Is that right, Vanessa? You remember that?
Yes.
I've been nice to you, right? I haven't been too picky just yet. I wasn't always that way. I mean, when I was a child, I grew up Catholic. We had all these same things, and I wasn't that interested in it. But, like any young boy, when it was the summertime and my parents would make me get dressed and come in from outside to get dressed and go to a mass, of course I didn't want to go to mass, right? And I'd come up with all the excuses for why I didn't have to sit there in the pew. I think probably my least thought out excuse one Sunday is that I was sitting there in church and I started complaining that it was too hot. I was too hot in that sanctuary. And of course, it's a massive church in the middle of Houston where they are just cranking the AC. So it is like as cold in there as the frozen section of a grocery store. My mother said, "There's no way that you're hot. It is freezing in here." And so I had to think about it a little bit. Okay, well, she's got a point. The AC is pretty high. But we were sitting pretty close. She made us sit. See, my mother did this thing, is if she knew we were going to start acting up, she would make us sit in the front row, like the front pew, so that she thought somehow that would make us act better. It didn't. But it was a nice try. And so then I looked around, and then I looked up at the altar, and I said, it's the candles. The candles are just so hot. We're sitting too close. We shouldn't be up so front. It's the heat off those candles. Can't I sit in the back? Can't I go hang out in the narthex? That also didn't work. So, of course, some of this just comes with age, getting to appreciate the thing that I didn't appreciate as a child. But our liturgical traditions and the things that we do here at Messiah are unique nowadays. They're unique in our community. There's not many churches that are liturgical in nature in Weatherford anymore. I think, and I would hope that over the time, being a part of Messiah, you've come to appreciate even some of the new things that we've introduced that maybe are new to you. That you've come to appreciate what it can do for us. I think liturgical worship does a couple of things for us. I think, one, it is intrinsically communal, right? There is no sort of, you sit down, you sit, you absorb, and you leave. That in your service, in your order of service, you've got little bolded sections, and that you actually have a part to play in the worship. That there is no possibility for you to come here and just consume worship. And I think that's becoming radical these days. I mean, that's a lot of the Christian churches, this is not the way really that worship is interactive in the way that it is. I think we should cherish that gift for a little bit longer, right? There's also this thing that we don't think about as much, and that our liturgical worship also means that I, as the pastor, can't really do anything that I want, right? When I was in seminary, I had a professor of liturgy who would say, in our big altar books, the pastor, what you say is in black, and then the things you're supposed to do, like the gestures or you're supposed to hold the cup up, are in red. And when anyone would feel like they could improvise, our professor would say the black, do the red, right? And he would just sort of yell that at you. Say the black, do the red. Just stick to the book. And that wasn't a sense of rigidity. It was a sense of the pastor's job is not to just do whatever I want. That actually I am accountable to our traditions. I think that is also a good thing. It means that our churches are not as prone to a cult of personality, of your worship becoming just how charismatic is the pastor or how creative is the pastor. Because this is about what we do as a community, not about what I do or what I say. It connects us to our ancestors. It connects us to deep tradition. That not all innovation is just good in and of itself. That sometimes to actually have a place still left in our world where we can come back and do something that our ancestors in the faith have done for 2,000 years, that's pretty rare in your life. Think about the rest of your week. When are you getting to participate in something the rest of your week that generations before you, thousands of generations before you, have done? And to come here on Sunday and have that opportunity is a real gift. So here are the things that are good. And I could talk about that all day, and I think probably you would agree with me because you're here, right? You know, if you didn't agree with me, you would be at the, mega church with the really cool pastor, not here. However, if we, I think at Messiah, are going to continue to cherish and steward this gift for our community, and I hope that we do, I hope that we can continue to have a deep relationship with the particular way that we worship, the particular way that our ancestors have worshiped, and we can preserve it, and that we can offer it up as a gift, that we can offer it up as something that counteracts some of the things in our world that take away attention and slowness and community. We also have to be balanced with it. And so, today, as a sort of a teaching sermon, I actually want to do the opposite. I want to talk about how our liturgical worship can become dangerous, so that we as a people who are stewarding this gift can be aware of how easily this gift can be misused. Because that's not what we want to do. It means striking a balance between these two things. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I think Psalm 100 is our perfect counter example, our perfect teacher, as we as a liturgical people, to teach us about the dangers of this gift and how we can steward it well. So let me tell you a little bit about Psalm 100 first and why I say that. The Psalms are liturgical hymns. They're liturgical prayers. They're prayers that were used in the worship practice of the Israelites, which was always liturgical in nature, always sort of regimented. But Psalm 100 is different, because although it is a kind of call to worship, it's missing some things that some of the other, what we might call liturgical psalms, usually have. One is that it's kind of non-specific. It doesn't actually talk about the temple. It doesn't talk about the priests. It is not, some of the psalms start with, this is a psalm for the choir master, right? It doesn't start that way. This is not a psalm for the choir master. This is not a psalm for the priests. This is not a psalm that is about how to sacrifice, and yet there are psalms like that. There are what are called the 14 Psalms of Ascent, which we don't know their original intent, but by Jesus' day, they were considered to be the psalms that only the Levites could recite. And it was every step that they took up the altar, they would have to recite one of these psalms. So these psalms quickly became something that wasn't directed at the whole people, but was directed at the choir master and the Levites and the priests, for them to take part in this temple worship. And yet here we have Psalm 100, which doesn't mention any of these specifics. And in fact, constantly is just directing it at you. This is the Psalm's directions for how to worship. To you, not to the choir master, not to the priest, not to the Levite. Here is how you are to worship. Here is how you are to arrive at the temple. Make a joyful noise to the Lord. Know the Lord. Enter his gates. Give thanks. Pretty simple. Short, sweet, to the point. I think this is a beautiful reminder that our worship, although it can become and start to become complicated, and some of these complications about, well, whether do we put the, do we take the book out here in the middle, do we read it from here, do I have to wear the whole heavy thing, do we move the candle here, is the baptismal font here, and all this stuff, do we have the unleavened bread or the leavened bread, all of this stuff, it has meaning, it has purpose, it can teach us something, but if we start becoming rigid about it, and thinking, well, it has to be this, we have to do it this way. Or if we become so complicated that a visitor comes in and has no idea what on earth we're doing, we've gone too far. Liturgical worship is a beautiful gift that you all are stewards of in this community. But the minute that it becomes rigid, the minute it becomes that we get locked in and say, well, we can only do it this way, or this is the way that we've always done it, or adding things that we don't actually explain what the purpose is, or what the meaning is, or what we're supposed to get out of it, or helping newcomers navigate. When you see a visitor, to come and approach them and say, here's the order of service, here's what you do, and if you don't understand it, doesn't matter, right? This is how we use liturgical worship in a form of gratitude rather than using it as something that is now a burden upon us. It is not a burden upon us. It is meant to be a gift. So, Psalm 100, I want to talk about. Each verse gives us a lesson for worship. And that's all I want to leave you with today. 5 lessons for you to learn about how to worship from Psalm 100. And I don't normally use notes, but I wrote them down because I didn't want to have a Rick Perry moment up here where I couldn't remember the list of things. Some of you are old enough to remember that incident. Also, another great reminder, that at Messiah, you will never have an AI sermon because what am I to preach from, So, verse 1 says, make a joyful noise to the Lord. I like that. Not music, not hymn, not these particular notes. Make a joyful noise. The ritual, the practice of our service, the standing up, the sitting down, the bowing, the crossing, the receiving of the communion, all of this stuff is meaningful because it engages our body, just like noise does, that gutturalness of just make a noise. Let your voice be heard. Your body is a part of this worship. And that's why we have movement and hand gestures and symbols and physical things and water and bread and oil. But noise in general, not specifically. So it doesn't matter if you like to do the sign of the cross or not, or if you do it backwards. There is no backwards, actually. Do it however you want to do it. If you like to bow when you come up here or you don't like to. If you are able to stand or you don't want to stand. As long as your body is engaged, this is what matters. It is not about, ritual is not about some sort of magic spell or formula. That if you don't do it right, it doesn't work. If you do it, it works. Make a joyful noise. Just generally put your body into it, your voice into it. And that is the secret. Not how you do it, in what order, or with what words. I'm going to put Rachel on the spot for a little bit. Don't worry, I'll make you the hero of this story. But I am going to make fun of you a little bit. So, when Rachel first served as a communion assistant, and it came time after, she knows what I'm doing, after communion, we all had been served communion, and then I was waiting for my communion. I told Rachel, I said, can you give me communion? And she said, well, I only rehearsed the words to say when giving people the chalice, just so I don't remember what the words are when you give the bread. So then she thought about it for a minute, took a piece of bread, put it in my hand, and said, here's your bread.
I did say amen.
Amen. There you go. Here's your bread. Perfect. That's fine, right? Those are not the wrong words. They were the right words. It was just fine. Because all that matters is that beautiful moment of another person giving another person, here's your bread. Make a joyful noise, not some magic ritual. Number 2, verse 2 says, serve the Lord with gladness. Like I said, liturgical worship is asking of you your participation. And that's beautiful too. That there is a space in your week where your presence actually gladdens another human being. And here's the other part, is that you don't really have to perform. Right? You show up, you do the best you can to participate, even if you're not feeling like it. That alone gladdens the hearts of those around you. That the rest of the week, you might wonder, is there a place that I can go this week where people are going to be glad to see me? Sometimes I think that. Because there are plenty of places where I think, people are not going to be glad to see me walk into this meeting. Or you might think, what do I have to do? Do I have to take care of my child? Do I have to go here to take care of my parent? Do I have to go take care of my neighbor? Church is the one place on Sunday where you just walk in the door and your presence gladdens the hearts of those who see you. That is a phenomenal thing in your life. At very few other spaces can I say to you confidently, we actually miss you, right? I thank you, Jayden, for doing our welcome message lately, and I love that what Jayden says at the beginning is, we know that some of you are traveling and you're joining us online. We miss you. We look forward to seeing you when you get back. Your presence matters here. Don't ever think that for a moment, that we won't miss you, that we don't know that you're not here. We know that you're not here. And it's not because we're checking attendance. It's because we love you. And we love seeing you here. Because you are serving the Lord with gladness and gladdening the hearts of God's people just by walking in the door. Verse 3 says, know that the Lord is God. He made us. We are his. Church is not a part of your self-improvement regimen. You don't go to church to just become a better person or whatever it is, to get smarter, to become holier necessarily. You could go your entire life going to church every Sunday, and you might not know a whole lot about God more, or you might not be a whole lot holier also. That's not a failure of the church. You do not come here to somehow improve yourself, to work on your New Year's resolution. But one thing in worship for you to get out of every Sunday, even when you have no idea what the heck I just said on a Sunday, which I know there's many sermons where you're like, I have no idea what that was about. Doesn't matter. Because you only needed to get one thing out of worship. Know that the Lord is your God. He made you. You are his. That's it. Enter with thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is not the same thing as enter with a really positive, go-get-em attitude. Worship sometimes feels like it happens every Sunday. Here it is again. And it's meant to be that. That the call to worship, enter his courts with thanksgiving, will happen on days in which you have a right and a reason to give thanks. And it will happen on days in your life when thanksgiving and praise and joy is the furthest thing from your mind. And yet the call will come to you. Enter his courts with thanksgiving. As our beautiful liturgy says at communion, it is right to give God thanks and praise at all times and in all places. Our worship does not demand that you come with the right emotion. And we're not going to use fancy rock band music to manipulate your emotions, to either make you particularly sad or particularly happy or particularly ecstatic. You enter with thanksgiving for whatever it is that you have at that moment. And sometimes we can give thanks that we enter the courts of God's house with grief. Because that is the love bubbling up in our hearts for someone, something. Enter his courts with thanksgiving. And very last, the final verse is not a direction to us. It is just a reminder. The Lord is good. Everlasting. Worship is not something that we leave here from having to evaluate. Did I get what I was supposed to get out of it? Was I a good little worshiper? Did I pray well? Did I sing well? Even I have to think, well, did I do well? Did I preach well? Did I say what I needed to say? Worship is not about our performance. Right? It's verse 5. The Lord is good. We come here and gather not because we are good, because we are good at preaching, because we are good at singing, because we are good at music, even when we are, even on days that our voices are all together and we are doing it good, it doesn't matter. The worship is the same. It is always good, because the Lord is good. I think we have a beautiful gift here at Messiah. I think you've heard me talk about it enough, and so I'm probably not going to talk about this now for another year. This is my moment to just remind us of this gift that we have, but to also warn us that it is a gift and not a burden. And that we can use this gift to communicate to others who are looking for a place where worship is communal, where worship is sometimes quiet, where worship is rooted in something other than the personality of a pastor or on a trend or on a fad, but is rooted in something deeper. I think our world is longing for this. But don't allow my enthusiasm, so also it's a lesson for you all to keep me in check. Don't allow my enthusiasm or our enthusiasm for this gift to turn it into something it was never meant to be. At the end of the day, if we can follow Psalm 100's instructions every Sunday, then we have worshipped well. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Know that the Lord is good. Enter the gates of the Lord with thanksgiving. Good indeed is the Lord. His steadfast love is everlasting. Amen.
Amen.